You are not my mother, my daughter said as she kicked me out of my own house before her wedding. So I called the police, reported an illegal party on my property, and canceled all the services. She watched her dream wedding get ruined from a patrol car while I sipped champagne. You are not my mother. The word struck me as I was hanging the last of the lights in my garden in my house for her wedding. 20 years. 20 years of raising that girl since she was 3 years old, after her biological mother took off without looking back. 20 years of taking her to the doctor, helping her with homework, drying her tears and celebrating her achievements. Honey, I'm just finishing up. Get out of here. She shoved me forcefully towards the front door. My real mother wants to talk to me alone. This is her moment, not yours. The woman who had abandoned that child was sitting on my sofa as if she owned the place. She smiled with that viper-like grin I was beginning to know all too well. You just don't understand family traditions, dear. I froze. Family traditions. This bitch was going to lecture me about family? But I organized everything, I paid for everything, so what? My stepdaughter grabbed my arm and dragged me to the entryway. That doesn't make you my mother. My real mother is here now, and you're done. The slam of the door exploded in my face. I stood there like an idiot with no keys, no purse, only 10% battery and $200 in my pocket, listening to their laughter from inside from my house, the house where I had raised that ungrateful girl. 20 years of unconditional love had just been smashed against a door. 5 minutes against that door, 5 minutes that changed me forever. How did we get to this point? For months ago, we were a normal family, Zoe planning her wedding, and I was excitedly helping her until Ines reappeared after 20 years. When her father died 7 years ago, she remained my daughter. No one questioned it, not the grandparents who lived far away, not anyone. It was natural. Of course, over the years, Zoe asked about her mom. It was normal. And when Ines returned at first, I understood. It was natural for Zoe to want to know her, to fill that void. From then on, Zoe only wanted to create that lost mother-daughter bond. I went from being her mom to being an obstacle, but I could see that Ines hadn't returned out of maternal love. And there, against that door, the understanding woman who put up with everything was gone. What remained was pure cold rage. With the 10% battery I had left, I ended up in a seedy motel. The receptionist lent me a charger when I told him what had happened. The next day, I could take action while the phone was charging. I connected to the security cameras I had installed at home 2 weeks earlier. I initially put them up because things started disappearing. Money from my wallet, some small pieces of jewelry. When I confronted Ines, Zoe told me I was just jealous and trying to cause trouble, because I couldn't stand her relationship with her real mother. Now, those cameras were going to serve a much better purpose. I let them rejoice in their triumph. Let them get confident thinking they had defeated me. The next day, I went to the bank, withdrew money, and set myself up in a cafe with Wi-Fi. All the wedding bills were in my name. Catering, flowers, decorations, music $18,000 out of my pocket so far, all paid with my credit card while I was becoming persona non grata in my own home. I downloaded every receipt, every contract, scanned them, and saved them in a digital folder. My phone buzzed. A message from Zoe. I hope you understand that my mother needs space to plan this properly. It's very important to me that she feels comfortable directing my wedding. The audacity of that girl. I took a screenshot just in case. Ines's social media was a goldmine. Recent posts showing off my house as if it were hers. The house where my princess will get married, my garden, my living room, my flowers that I planted. The comments made me sick. What a beautiful house you have. You can tell you have good taste. Your daughter is lucky to have a mother with resources. She replied as if everything were hers. Screenshot after screenshot went into the folder. At 11 p.m. my phone rang. Zoe, where are you? In a hotel. What? Why? Because you kicked me out of my house. I thought that's what you wanted. I didn't mean forever, just. So you would make yourself invisible so my mommy could play house. An uncomfortable silence. This is getting out of proportion. Come home and we'll talk. No. What? I'm not coming back for more humiliation. Handle your wedding on your own. But you have to pay for everything. There it was, the naked truth. Why? Why? Because you're because you've been. She couldn't complete the sentence. She couldn't say mother after screaming the opposite at me. Call me when you decide if I'm family or an ATM. I hung up. The next morning I started making calls. Good morning. I need to review cancellation options for tomorrow's event. Every vendor. Cancellation 24 hours in advance. 30% penalty. Same day. 100% penalty but no service. I made a list with all the numbers. I reviewed the charges on my card from the last few days. A $500 charge for elite private security had appeared the day before. Security guards in my garden to control me. I called the company and canceled the service for fraudulent use of my card. They weren't going to have guards protecting them from me in my own house. The night before the wedding, I sat in the hotel with all my folders open. For months of humiliation that would end tomorrow, I decided to review the security camera recordings from the last few days. I wanted to see exactly what they had been doing in my house. What I saw on the recording left me frozen. First video. Ines pouring something into my glass of water. Me drinking it unsuspecting. 20 minutes later, I collapsed unconscious on the sofa. Then Luca arrived with a folder. Here are the documents Zoe gave me, he told Ines as he took my unconscious hands. Zoe was there, standing next to them watching everything. She'll be okay, right? She asked in a nervous voice. Of course, my love. She's just sleeping, Ines replied. Fake medical documents. A certificate of mental incapacity. My fingerprint being pressed against property transfer papers. This isn't right, Zoe murmured, watching them manipulate my hands. You're claiming what's yours, Ines reassured her. The house that belonged to your father, she stole it from you. Exactly, Luca said. It's yours by right. I stared at the screen, unable to breathe. Zoe knew. Zoe was in on all of it. But that wasn't the worst part. The second video was from just a few hours ago. Zoe's room. Zoe sleeping deeply, too still, with a half-empty glass on the nightstand. And there, in the same bed where a drugged Zoe was sleeping, were Ines and Luca, going at it like animals, shameless and unrestrained. I threw up. I ran to the hotel bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left. My blood pressure shot up, my hands were shaking. Zoe and I had been surrounded by human scum, people without souls. Although I had suspected Ines since things started disappearing, I never suspected Luca. I never imagined that the man who was going to marry her would go so far as to drug her to sleep with his mother-in-law in her own bed. I sat on the bathroom floor and cried, not from sadness, but from disgust, from fury, from helplessness. 3 a.m. I called Alia, my lawyer. Are you okay? It's 3 in the morning. Alia. I was kicked out of my house about 30 hours ago. They're organizing a wedding on my property without my permission. And I just discovered they tried to steal my house with fake documents. Wait, what? They kicked you out of your own house? Yes, and I have video evidence of everything, the fraud, the thefts they've been committing, everything. Send it to me immediately. I waited 10 minutes. My phone rang. Oh my God. Her voice sounded different. This is document fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit property theft. What can I do? Look, you have 2 paths. First, we report the document fraud you just showed me. Second, we report the unauthorized occupation of your property and the illegal event. They are different crimes that add up. How do you want to proceed? Alia, is there anything else? Can I cancel Zoe's trust fund? The one I set up with the money her father left. Why would you want to cancel it? Because I spent that money raising her for 7 years. College, car, health insurance, clothes, food, everything. And now she tells me I'm not her mother. Do you have receipts for all the expenses? Of course, I followed your advice from years ago and documented every expense. I have everything. Perfect. Because now that Zoe says you're not her mother, you technically spent her inheritance money as her paid guardian, not as her mother. And a guardian has a right to compensation. I don't understand. Zoe wants to separate the roles, right? You never legally adopted her. So if you're not her mother, then the money you spent raising her becomes caregiving services that she owes you. With those receipts, she owes you every penny you invested. My mind cleared for the first time in days. Are you saying? I'm saying you can cancel the trust fund immediately. You established it, you can revoke it. With those receipts as justification, Zoe has no way to claim anything from you. For the first time in 4 months, I smiled. You know what, Alia? I think I'm going to give them their wedding gift. Perfect. I understand. I'll take care of preparing everything for tomorrow, Alia said, referring to the lawsuits. You do your thing. I hung up. I would have to wait until the offices open to make the cancellations. I couldn't sleep anyway. I spent the next few hours organizing the videos, rehearsing exactly what I was going to say. Every word had to be perfect. At 8 a.m., I dialed the numbers on my list. I confirmed the cancellation of all the services we had agreed upon the day before. Catering, band, flowers, additional decorations that had yet to be delivered, one by one. They all confirmed they understood. In less than an hour, Zoe's wedding was left without food, without music, without flowers. I left the tables, chairs, and the audiovisual equipment they had rented for the ceremony. I was going to need a place to project my videos and a sound system. At the mall, I bought an elegant but not festive navy blue dress, comfortable shoes, and a large bag to carry everything I needed. As I was getting ready in the hotel, my phone rang. Zoe had just left the church. Where are you? The vendors didn't arrive. The catering canceled. The music canceled. The flowers canceled. Really? How strange. It must be some mistake. It's not a mistake. You canceled them. Me? Why would I do that? Because you're mad at me. Zoe, I didn't cancel anything. There must be a misunderstanding. Total silence. I could hear her ragged breathing. I need you, she murmured, her voice breaking. I don't know what to do. The guests are already arriving and there's nothing. Please, are you coming to the reception? Of course. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I hung up and drove to my house. It was 10 minutes away. They had no idea what was waiting for them, none of them. It was time to reveal their true faces. I arrived at my house and the scene was exactly as I expected. Controlled chaos. Guests wandered confused among the empty tables. Some had already left. Others were taking pictures of the disaster as if it were a spectacle. Zoe ran towards me as soon as she saw me get out of the car. Her wedding dress was stained, her makeup was running. She looked destroyed. Thank God you're here. Everything is ruined. There's no food, no music. The guests are confused and upset. I hugged her like I had 1,000 times in 20 years. For a second, I acted as if she were my daughter again. Calm down, honey. I'm here now. We'll sort this out. Ines appeared behind her with that viper smile intact. How nice of you to come and fix the mess you caused. I smiled back at her with all the sweetness in the world. Of course, Ines. A mother is always there for her family. Luca approached from the terrace with that confident guy look that now disgusted me. Well, the stepmother finally arrived. Are you going to fix this or what? Of course I am, I said, walking towards the sound system that was still connected. In fact, I think it's time we all understood exactly what kind of family we are. I connected my phone to the projector. The screen lit up against the garden wall. What are you doing? Ines asked, but her voice was already nervous. Oh dear, I have a surprise prepared especially for you. The first image appeared on the screen. Ines pouring something into my glass of water. The timestamp clearly showed the date. But that wasn't what shattered my soul. The second clip showed Zoe entering the room while I was unconscious. She's going to be okay? She asked in the recording, looking at my motionless body. Of course, my love, Ines replied, touching her shoulder. She's just resting deeply. Luca appeared with a folder full of documents. Are you ready for this, Zoe? And there was my daughter, my soul's daughter, looking at my unconscious body and nodding with determination. Yes, it's time to get back what was my dad's. She has no right to keep it all. The silence in the garden was sepulchral. Zoe turned as white as her dress. That's edited. Really? I played the next clip where Zoe told Luca, take her fingers and press them against the documents. Make it look like she signed voluntarily. The guests started to murmur. Some moved closer to get a better look. I approached Zoe and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. I thought you were my daughter. I trusted you. I opened the doors of my home to the love of your life and even to the one you call mother, even though she forgot she was one for 20 years. And for what? So you could all try to stab me in the back. I paused, looking directly into her eyes. And it's not that I'm surprised, not by them. I'm not surprised. But by you whom I cared for with so much love. To be paid back this way. Well, I hope it was worth betraying the one person who always cared for you. Even when she didn't have to. Zoe tried to take my arm. I can explain. Explain what? Explain how you plan to steal my house? Explain how you drugged me to forge my signature. The guests began to murmur in horror. But I wasn't finished. And even though you don't deserve it, I continued, looking directly at Zoe, this will be my last act of love for you. I'm going to show you who the one who, in just a few months and with no effort or merit, became your mother truly is. I played the second video. Zoe's room. Zoe sleeping, drugged, with a half-empty glass on the nightstand. And there in her own bed were Ines and Luca having sex. The scream that Zoe let out could be heard down the street. What is that? That's your dear biological mother sleeping with your fiancé in your bed while you were drugged, I said with a calmness that surprised me. Last night, while you were sleeping with whatever they gave you. Zoe vomited right there on the grass. The guests recoiled in horror. Luca turned white. That's not what it looks like. No. I turned up the volume on the audio where Ines was moaning. I love that it's in her bed. The stupid girl has no idea. Ines tried one last desperate move. My love, you're misinterpreting. She wants to create discord between us. Don't believe her. She's manipulating all of this. Don't my love me. Zoe got up, stumbling. I saw everything. I saw you too. Seriously. I played the last audio clip. The conversation between Ines and Luca planning to get rid of Zoe after obtaining the house. Once we have the property, Ines's voice said, we won't need either of them anymore. Zoe has served her purpose. Exactly, Luca replied. Now they're just in the way. I'll think of something. The silence that followed was absolute. You couldn't even hear the cars on the street. Zoe looked up from the puddle of vomit and stared at Ines and Luca with an expression I had never seen before. Pure horror. You wanted to get rid of me? Did you hear that? My biological mother and my fiancé planned to get rid of me. But I had one last surprise. Zoe, I said in a completely cold voice, there's something else you need to know. I pulled out the papers I had prepared with AITA. Remember the $50,000 trust fund I established with the money your father left? The money for your future. Zoe nodded, confused. I canceled it this morning. What? You see, for the last 7 years I spent that money raising you. College, car, health insurance, clothes, food. Everything. I have it all documented. Zoe stood paralyzed, her mouth open, unable to process what she had just heard. But as you said yourself, I am not your mother. So I have no obligation to spend my money on you or worry about your future. I will consider it settled with the trust fund. Zoe collapsed onto the grass, crying. But that's not fair. Not fair. I looked at her in disbelief. You know what's not fair? That you conspired to steal my house. That you drugged me to forge documents. That you organized an illegal party on my property after kicking me out. So I consider it settled with the trust fund, your inheritance for your crimes. Ines and Luca looked at each other in panic. Their perfect plan had turned into a nightmare. At that moment the patrol cars arrived. I had called them before I got there, just as I had planned. We received a report of an illegal party at this property, the officer said, looking around. Are you the owner? Yes, I'm the one who made the report. They are illegally occupying my land to hold an event without my permission, I replied, pointing towards the tables and decorations. The officers looked at Ines, Luca, and Zoe. Who organized this event without the owner's permission? I pointed to the three of them. They organized this wedding without my authorization. Ines, Luca, and Zoe ended up handcuffed in the back of different patrol cars. As they were taking Ines away, she screamed at me from the car window. All of this could have been yours too. We could have been. That house belongs to me by right. I looked at her one last time. The only partnership I accept is with people who have souls. I turned around and walked towards my house, ignoring her desperate cries. When the patrol cars drove away, I stood in the middle of my garden, surrounded by the remnants of what was supposed to be a wedding. The guests began to leave in silence. Some came over to say goodbye, but most just left, probably to tell the craziest story they had ever witnessed. I went into my house and closed the door. For the first time in 4 months, the silence was perfect. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in my living room on my sofa in my house. Justice hadn't just been served. It had been served with surgical precision. Zoe would learn that actions have consequences. Ines had lost both her daughter and her freedom. Luca had traded a wedding for a cell. And I had recovered something more valuable than a house or money. I had recovered my dignity. It's been 8 months since that wedding that never was. Ines received 4 years in prison for document fraud and conspiracy. Luca got 3.5 years for the same charges plus forgery. AITA did an impeccable job with all the evidence we had. The videos left no room for doubt. Zoe received probation and 300 hours of community service as a minor accomplice. She lost her job when the videos went viral. Someone uploaded them to TikTok with the title "Bride Betrays Her Mom at Her Own Wedding," and it got millions of views. She had to move out of state to escape the shame. The house is still mine, of course. I changed everything. New paint, redesigned garden. I even installed a pool where the wedding area was supposed to be. I erased every last trace of those 4 months of hell. I donated the trust fund money to a foundation for women who are victims of family fraud. I didn't need it at all, and at least something good came out of all this. Zoe wrote me a long letter 3 months ago asking for forgiveness, saying she understood everything she had lost, that Ines had manipulated her, that she finally saw I had been her real mother all along. I threw it in the trash without finishing it. 2 weeks ago, I received another letter, shorter this time. I just wanted you to know I graduated from the community service program working with orphan children. It made me understand what it really means to be a mother. I hope one day you can forgive me. I threw that one away too. It's not that I can't forgive. It's that some betrayals change the nature of reality forever. When someone you raised with love looks you in the eye and tells you that you are not their mother while planning to steal everything you have, there is no going back. Not for me. I've started dating a widower my age. His name is Roberto, and he has 2 adult daughters who treat me with genuine respect. I've never told them the whole story, but they see how I treat them and understand that I know what it's like to be a real mother. Sometimes, when I'm in my new garden with a glass of wine, I think about everything that happened. I don't regret anything. I did what I had to do to get my dignity and my life back. Zoe had 20 years to decide who I was to her. When she finally decided, I simply respected her decision. If I wasn't her mother, I had no obligation to act like one. The difference is that now I have peace. I sleep well knowing that no one is going to stab me in the back in my own home, that the people in my life are there because they value me, not because they need something from me. And yes, before you ask, it was worth every second of the pain I caused. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Reddit, would you have forgiven someone who betrayed you like that? Or did I do the right thing by closing that door forever? Edit. I see several comments asking about the house. To clarify, the house was never Zoe's inheritance. I bought it with my own money before I married her father. When he died, the house remained in my name because it was always mine. Zoe and her mother tried to make it seem like it was the father's property to justify the theft, but the documents were always in my name. That's why the fraud was so blatant.